All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the greatest scientific fraud of all time. Let this title page sink into your mind. The greatest scientific fraud of all time. What could that possibly be? It's very simple. Most people can identify it. Actually, anyone can identify it. Even kindergarten children can identify it. But physicists and physics people and academia, and especially politicians, cannot recognize it. So what is it? What is the greatest scientific fraud of all time? It is spreading sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once, as they do in the foundation of climate physics, which then generates climate alarmism and all of this political movement to basically take over the world with junk, fake science. Spreading incoming sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once is the greatest scientific fraud of all time. When you do that, you can do it in such a way that it reduces to, or the way that it is done, is that it reduces to what you see in these diagrams. These diagrams are sunshine being spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. These are the foundation of climate physics. These are how climate physics derives its concept of a greenhouse effect. And these diagrams, the mathematics, leads to these diagrams being allowed to be literally drawn as flat lines. So not is it just spreading sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. It is also equivalent to flat Earth theory. So think of the scale of that fraud. Does that qualify as the greatest scientific fraud or mistake of all time? That modern science in this day and age could accept flat Earth theory, what reduces to flat Earth theory through peer review, into literature and into this political movement where they wish to take over the world with carbon dioxide policy, carbon dioxide rationing that basically governs all activity, all industrial farming, and even respiratory activity on Earth. Look at these diagrams. They are flat Earths. They are flat lines, and they are created from spreading sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. So this is the foundation of the field of climate science. The whole field of climate science performed in academia, in geology departments at universities, start here. They all start here with these diagrams. This is mainstream physics, flat Earth theory, flat Earth diagrams. It is the greatest scientific error mistake of all time, obviously. It transitions to intentional fraud when those who promote it do so with prejudice. What I mean by that is when it is pointed out to them that you have actually just drawn a flat line, and what you have done is spread sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once, when instead of saying, that doesn't seem like a correct thing to do, now does it? Because any normal person would say that. They instead act angrily with prejudice, and they keep on promoting it and use sophistry and all sorts of argumentative techniques to try to defend what is obviously, even to kindergarten children, not defensible. So let's just establish that this is actually what they say. That is actually what is done. And we're going to establish that, using a couple of examples, that this is actually what they say and what they do. So you'll recall from a discussion I had with a climatologist who has a PhD in meteorology, in an argument I had with him several months ago. And I said that I don't think you should actually do that. I don't think it's actually physically reasonable to spread sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. I said it's not really physically reasonable to do that. And this was this fellow's response. He said that Postma, me, disputes that on average, the 1370 watts per meter squared, which is the incoming solar sunshine, that's the incoming solar energy, intercepted by the Earth, is spread over the entire Earth. How can you dispute that? What? How can I dispute that? Guys, help me along here. How can I dispute that incoming sunshine is spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once? How can I dispute that? I mean, how would I do that? He goes on, Roy, this is about as basic as it gets. It is the starting point for all climate science, and no credentialed skeptic, let alone the other scientist, everyone else in academia I know of disputes it. So there you go. None of them dispute that sunshine, in their mind, in their ideas, should be spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. They think that that's reasonable, and this example of this person cannot believe that I would dispute that. Guys, what scale of fraud are we dealing with here? This is so strange, is it not? Now look at this comment, which was at the exact around the same time, within a few hours or a few days of the previous. So now look what he says here. He says, no one assumes that the solar flux is spread out evenly across the Earth, or that the sun shines day and night. Why do people infer such silliness? If I measure 24 hours and do an average of that, then it is the actual average amount of sunlight that my location received. What do you mean by actual average? What actually happened was that high intensity sunlight came in with a lot of heat and heated up the ground and created the climate. And then it was nighttime. That's what actually happened. What do you mean by actual average? An actual average of a colder level of sunshine that couldn't create the climate, that didn't actually occur. What actually occurred was warm sunlight, which did create the climate. So think of what he's saying here. He says, in one paragraph, he says, no one assumes that solar flux is spread out over the entire surface area of the Earth. But this is what we do in mathematics with our models, is spread sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once as an input. Let's just repeat that. Look at this fellow's insane self-contradictory statement. No one assumes that solar flux is spread out evenly across the Earth. Why would people infer such a silly thing? What we do, however, is spread sunshine evenly over the entire surface area of the Earth at once in our mathematics. Again, no one actually thinks that the sunshine spreads over the entire surface area of the Earth at once with no day and night. But in our models, we spread sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once as if there's no day and night. And of course, this is exactly what he said up here. Isn't that insane? Can you believe such an insane self-contradiction? It's comical. It's comical. This is mainstream academia, people. This is your widely celebrated, vaunted, oh so loved basis of climate alarm and climate change. That's your basis of it. These kind of statements. This science. Now, let's look at a textbook. This is a textbook titled The Earth System. So this is about the Earth system. This textbook was written by these three fellows who are PhDs in geology, geosciences and geography. Guys, think of geosciences. That's geophysics and geography. Geophysics is all about plate tectonics, continental drift, volcanoes, earthquakes, that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously you understand that the world is round, don't you? If you're that type of a person writing these type of books, you understand that the Earth is round and that sunshine only falls on one side of the Earth at a given time, don't you? These are very, very high up people, very well credentialed, highly credentialed, and they have dozens of publications if you look up their CVs. Department of Geosciences and Earth System Science Center, Pennsylvania State University Department of Geosciences and Geography. Now, let's look at what they say. Let's just look at what they say for a moment. This is in Chapter 3, Thinking Quantitatively, How the Greenhouse Effect Works, the one-layer atmosphere. So this is where they introduce their greenhouse effect and how to derive it. Look at what they say. Let the amount of sunlight striking the planet be equal to S over 4, the global averaged solar flux. The surface absorbs an amount of sunlight equal to S over 4 times the absorptivity of the Earth. So there they say it, right there. Geologists, geophysicists are saying in their initial starting point model from which they derive everything else and from which everything else is interpreted, this is where they start. Look at his words. Let the amount of sunlight striking the planet be equal to S over 4, which is the global average solar flux, which is the incoming sunlight spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. That's what this number is. They used S over 4 here. It's F over 4, same thing. They're taking solar input and spreading it over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. Now, what happens when you do that, as we have discussed? When you do that, and they're using that as the input. And when you do that, you reduce the power of sunshine because you dilute it. You spread it out over surface area it never exists upon. They think it's a reasonable average. It's not a reasonable average. It's not a meaningful average. It's not an average that actually physically exists and drives any physics. It's a total fiction. What actually happens is real-time heating. And in real time, sunshine has the power to create very high temperatures, transfer tremendous amounts of heat, and create the climate. That's what happens in real time, but they don't use that. What they use is their fictional average, where sunshine is spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once, so that there's no day and night, and where sunshine then gets diluted down to a heating potential power of only minus 18 degrees Celsius. So that's what they do. This is in their chapter 3, Thinking Quantitatively, how the greenhouse effect works. This is the starting point of their climate science. Let the amount of sunlight striking the planet be sunlight spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. To repeat, that's what he says. He says, this textbook says, let the amount of sunlight striking the planet be the incoming sunlight spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. That is the biggest fraud, the biggest mistake of all time that science, especially in modern times, could have possibly made in all time, because it reduces to flat Earth theory. So remember what happens when you do that. You dilute sunshine to a value that can't create the climate, because if you diluted it over surface area, it never exists upon, and it never occurs upon. So now sunshine is only minus 18 degrees Celsius, and it can't create the climate, which we know obviously exists because we can go outside and see it. So what you have to do in these diagrams is get the climate to create itself. And that's what the greenhouse effect is. That's what their greenhouse effect is. That's what they call the greenhouse effect, is the climate creating itself. And so what's the very next sentence after what we just read? Along with a downward radiation from the atmosphere. That is the climate creating itself. That sentence, what they do there is this part, and that is how they get, in their theory, the climate to create itself. They do that because they've diluted sunshine to a power of only minus 18 degrees Celsius heating potential, so that sunshine can't create the climate. So then they need to invent a scheme where the climate must create itself, and that is these expressions here, and these arrows here, and it is this sentence here. That is the climate creating itself. That is the biggest fraud, the biggest scientific mistake of all time. Because it even reduces, even when they draw their diagrams, they even draw them as flat Earths, as flat lines. Not only does it reduce mathematically to flat Earth theory, if you just think about it for a second, because how could you possibly have sunshine spreading evenly over the entire surface area of the Earth at once unless the Earth was a flat plane facing the sun? I mean, that's how it works. And then, obviously, you must go ahead and draw your diagram to represent that as a flat line, and they do that. We've seen those multiple references about the foundation of climate physics. That is exactly what they do. They draw the Earth as a flat line. The greatest possible scale of fraud and mistake possible in modern science, right there. So here's this diagram. I make that comparison, same diagram as before, but let's go back to Roy Spencer. So this is global warming 101. So this is the entry point from where you're supposed to understand how global warming works. Every scientific theory involves assumptions. Global warming theory starts with the assumption that energy in equals energy out. So there you have it right there. That's consistent. They're saying that they're applying the first law of thermodynamics, conservation of energy, in the most naive and simplistic way possible. They're saying that since the energy in is equal to the energy out, then you can simply use the energy out as energy in. But you can't actually do that because the energy in versus energy out has different heating potential. The energy in is coming from the sun. It's high frequency light. It's solar light. It's visible light. And it's very intense and it's hot. At the top of the atmosphere, it's 121 degrees Celsius potential heating power. It's extremely hot, the sunlight coming in, the energy coming in. The energy coming out from the Earth, from the whole Earth, is this much cooler value. It has only minus 18 degrees Celsius heating potential power to something else nearby. So is that a valid assumption? That's their starting point. In one sense, in the most simplistic sense, yes, energy in equals energy out. But you can't actually reverse energy out for energy in, because the energy out is much cooler, because it is emitted over a much larger surface area than the energy coming in. The energy coming in is sunlight. It's visible light. It's extremely high intensity. It carries a lot of heat with it, 121 degrees Celsius potential worth of heating. When it falls on the Earth's surface here, it creates the climate because it's so warm, because it transfers so much heat. It evaporates clouds, drives everything. It drives everything, causes air to rise up, drives convection, all of that. It creates the whole climate. Whereas this energy out comes from the entire surface area of the Earth at once, and obviously it could never create the climate. It's residual heat. It's residual heat only, and it's much cooler at minus 18 degrees Celsius, and that could never create the climate. Minus 18 degrees Celsius as your input could never create cumulonimbus clouds, could never generate convection, could never drive the climate, could it? So you can't actually reverse the two, which is exactly what they're doing in climate physics. So, spreading the sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. That is the greatest scientific fraud in history, and it reduces to flat Earth theory in a very obvious way. They even draw their diagrams as flat Earths. This is mainstream physics. This is defended by your average typical PhD in physics and climatology and meteorology at universities in the university academic system. When you point it out to them, how do they respond to you? I gave that example in my last video. I pointed this out to a physicist that I know. Pointed that out, that that's what's happening in your diagrams, and does it actually make sense? And his response was, "How dare you say that? You're not a serious person. You're not a serious part of the climate debate." It's like, really? So I'm not serious because I'm wondering if sunshine actually really does spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once, and if you should really start a model that way and start your whole science that way. Who's not serious? So it's like they're just insistent that the emperor has clothes. No, the emperor is wearing clothes. It really isn't. It's like, no, really, guys, that emperor is wearing no clothes. That line really is a flat line. No, it's not. It's okay, though. It's fine. Don't say that. You're an idiot for pointing that out. Crazy. But then they defend it. So when you point it out, but then they defend it. And while fallacies are harmful to the information and physical commons, because this is harmful. Of course it's harmful. People you just consider that it's harmful because it's false information, because it's fraud. Because look at what they're trying to do with it politically. They're trying to come up with a system to govern all economic activity, basically all economic activity, including down to respiration, including down to your breath, which exhales carbon dioxide. This is the most insane system that's ever been attempted. And when practitioners react so strangely to plain questions, so in that previous example I just gave, sometimes I wonder, am I actually talking to a real person? I mean, what kind of person gets mad at me for asking and gets in a debate with me and tries to defend it when I ask, does sunlight actually spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once? And they get upset about it. They get upset about me asking that. Isn't that strange? It's a very strange thing to get upset about, and to say that I'm not a serious person for asking that, and I'm not a serious part of the debate for asking that. Isn't that strange? Sometimes I wonder, am I actually talking to a person? Am I talking to some sort of robot or something? Because who would respond that way? Who in the world would respond that way? It's just the strangest, most uncanny thing in the world. It's strange. It is bizarre. So when you have that happening, you have to realize that you're in some sort of war. Some sort of war is happening. These people are doing it with intent. Like it's either these people are either robots that don't know what they're doing, and they don't know how ridiculous what they're saying is. When I ask them, does sunshine really spread over the entire surface area of the Earth at once in such a way that you can then draw it as a flat line, and you're actually drawing the Earth as a flat line, look right here, and then they get mad about me pointing that out. Am I actually talking, and they defend it, and they say it's okay. Am I actually talking with a human? Or is it a robot? Because what kind of human defends that? Especially a PhD in physics, especially PhDs in geophysics and climatology and meteorology. That is the strangest thing of all. So either one, these people are some sort of robot and they're coordinated by some other system, and that's how they're coordinated so well in their argument, or they know what they're doing. They're lying on purpose, they're lying with intent, and they're defending what is obviously ridiculous and indefensible, yet they have to do it because it's their role or their job in some way for some reason to do it. Then you're in a war. These are real people, not robots, and you are actually in some sort of war with them because there's no other explanation to explain how you can get such strange behavior and the defense of such strange things. And isn't that what you get from academia these days? Speaking of the defense of very strange things. You know what I'm talking about. All right, I think that was it. Yeah. Okay, so I hope you appreciated that. That is the greatest scientific fraud of all time. The greatest scientific mistake, the greatest scientific fraud of all time is spreading sunshine over the entire surface area of the Earth at once. It goes from mistake to intentional fraud when you point it out to people, to these people, and they continue to defend it. And they get mad at you for pointing it out. Then it goes to they have intent. They're not just making a mistake. They're not just committing an innocent fallacy. You point out the fallacy and they repeat it and continue to repeat it, and they do it for years and years and years. And while they're doing it, they're trying to develop political systems to give them all this power to dictate what economic activity should occur, and they'll just skim a little bit off the top for taxes and do whatever they want to do with it. I mean, come on, guys. Who benefits? This is all economic intrigue. It's all economic intrigue. It's all some people trying to get to win the top position and basically control everyone else. And of course the academics love it. Of course the academics love it. I mean, that must make their heads feel so big and so powerful that they're going to develop this system that's going to control literally everything down to your breath on planet Earth. It's just a fraud, it's just a racket, and it's obvious, and it can be proven as so, and you can prove if this was ever to go to court, one could easily demonstrate that this is fraud and that they are lying with intent because they repeat it after it's pointed out to them. They're lying with intent. You have to conclude that. They're doing it on purpose. Okay, guys, so hope you enjoyed that and take care. Bye-bye.